Britain, a country known for its economic prowess, wet weather, and dry humor, a beacon of old world prosperity and charm, is facing an existential crisis. In the past 10 years alone, Britain has been crumbling beneath the weight of an economic strife, a cost of living crisis, collapsing healthcare system, and an avalanche of political failures. Now, though, Britain is also faced with an uncontrollable reality that could destroy it entirely. Once the invader, Britain is now seen as the invaded. But this narrative only tells part of the story. Welcome to Living History. Immigration has been a cornerstone of Britain's economic development, particularly noticeable since the middle of the 20th century. In the aftermath of World War II, Britain turned to nations within the Commonwealth, countries like India, Pakistan, and the Caribbean islands, to address critical labor shortages. The British government's recruitment efforts brought thousands of skilled workers to shore up key industries, such as healthcare and public transport. This strategic move was vital in powering the nation's post-war recovery and subsequent economic expansion. Today, the role of immigrants in Britain remains crucial. Many sectors continue to experience a shortage of domestic workers, including healthcare, agriculture, and hospitality. Immigrants not only fill these essential roles, but also propel the economy forward by boosting productivity, fostering entrepreneurship, and making Britain more competitive on the global stage. But of course, there's another side to every coin. Immigration also presents undeniable challenges to the British economy and society. With undocumented migration to the UK on the rise in recent years, there is a growing fear of the impact that this is having on the country. Just consider this. In recent years, concerns have been raised about the impact of immigration on wage levels, particularly for low-skilled workers. Some studies suggest that an oversupply of labor due to immigration may lead to lower wages in certain industries, exacerbating income inequality and posing challenges for native workers. That, though, is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. Immigrants also face significant challenges of their own, including social cohesion and cultural identity. While immigration has enriched British society by bringing diverse perspectives, customs, and talents, it has also presented the reality of struggling to integrate and a naive idealism of cultural cohesion. Of course, instances of successful integration can be found throughout British history. For example, the 50s and 60s saw an influx of immigrants from former colonies in South Asia. Despite facing initial discrimination and challenges, many members of this community made significant contributions to British society, enriching its cultural landscape and fostering a sense of inclusivity. But it hasn't always been smooth. Language barriers, socioeconomic disparities, and cultural differences have hindered cohesion in some communities. Instances of social isolation and ethnic enclaves have surfaced, sparking increasing tension between communities and leading to debates about just how much immigrants should or can assimilate into British culture. The changing demographic landscape of Britain reflects these complexities. Britain has become more ethnically diverse, which in turn has reshaped its cultural identity. The transformation has prompted introspection about what it means to be British and has led to discussions about multiculturalism versus assimilation. However, the rising popularity of extreme right parties and anti-immigrant sentiment highlights the underlying frustration of Britain's natives who are increasingly pinpointing immigration as the cause. Just think, for example, of some of the front pages of right-wing tabloids on any given day, and you'll see easily enough what lurks beneath. But part of this isn't just sensationalistic headlines to sell bad papers. Consider healthcare. Waiting times really are the longest they have ever been, and people are growing angrier at a system that they pay for that no longer seems to serve them in moments of their greatest need. Of course, as we've already discussed, there is an irony here that almost 20% of NHS staff are from overseas. And is a failing public service really the fault of a family seeking safety from war, or a young student hoping for a better education? Are they really the ones responsible? In some ways, that almost doesn't matter when it comes to the narrative of British politics, who have pushed a message that immigration is the main source of strain on public services overall. This narrative appeals to communities where immigrant populations are heavily concentrated and experience overcrowded schools, longer waiting times at hospitals, and an increased demand for housing. But it's always good to see all sides of the story before coming to conclusion. This is why I've been using Ground News to stay updated on all things politics. I honestly love this product. Their platform quickly shows me how news is covered from across the political spectrum, adding context so I can truly comprehend polarizing events like immigration from all sides. Just check out their breakdown on this report about the EU signing off a landmark migration and asylum policy reform despite Hungary and Poland voting against the package. Ground News found 37 articles covering this, but surprisingly, it's a near total blind spot for people only following conservative news. And looking down here, many of these articles come from highly reliable, fact-checked sources, with each one giving me some new detail. And reading their summary, which covers different political viewpoints, gets me up to speed on any breaking news within seconds. Understanding these types of issues is the only way to truly have an informed opinion. So go to ground.news/livinghistory or click the link below for 40% off their Vantage plan, making a month's worth of infinite fact-check knowledge cost less than your daily cup of coffee or tea. But back to the topic of immigration. In areas with a high influx of immigrants, local public services may struggle to keep pace with growing demand, leading to stretched resources and compromised quality of care. Overcrowded classrooms can impact the quality of education for both immigrant and non-immigrant children, while longer waiting times at hospitals can affect access to healthcare for everyone in the community. Additionally, the increased demand for housing in these areas can drive up prices and exacerbate existing housing shortages, further straining the local infrastructure. These challenges can foster resentment and tension within the communities, with some residents unsurprisingly attributing the strain on public services solely to immigration. However, it's important to recognize that these issues often stem from a broader systemic failure in funding, rather than solely from the presence of immigrants. So addressing the strain on public services requires someone in charge who knows what the hell they're handling and talking about to address both short-term challenges and long-term systemic issues. But the whole world knows Britain hasn't had someone like that for a long time. Successive governments in the UK have grappled with immigration policies throughout the 21st century, aiming to balance the concerns of the native population with the needs of immigrants. However, the success of achieving this balance has been conflicted at best and completely ineffective at worst. On one hand, some policies have been successful in addressing specific concerns. For example, the points-based system introduced in 2008 aimed to attract skilled workers while limiting low-skilled immigration. Similarly, reforms to family migration rules have sought to prioritize spouses and children, promoting family unity. However, controversies and failures have also damaged immigration legislation and the integrity of politics itself. The Windrush scandal exposed the unintended consequence of hostile environment policies, leading to wrongful detentions of Caribbean immigrants and the deportations of long-term residents. After living legally in the UK for decades, they face severe repercussions due to changes in immigration laws and a lack of documentation proving their status. Additionally, attempts to reduce net migration targets have faced criticism for the economic impact and implications for sectors reliant on migrant labor, such as agriculture. In particular, the UK's push to deport immigrants to Rwanda has been a subject of controversy and scrutiny. Despite Rwanda being deemed a safe country by Parliament, concerns over the safety and welfare of individuals being sent back have not gone unnoticed. Some argue that deportation to Rwanda could expose individuals to the same risks they have escaped, such as persecution or human rights abuses. Additionally, questions have been raised about the transparency and fairness of the deportation process, particularly around the assessment of individual cases and the provision of legal support for those facing removal. Locking people on a do-it-yourself shopping container didn't exactly instill hope either, costing more than £22 million of taxpayers' money. So it's not surprising that immigration has evolved into a deeply polarizing issue within British politics, exerting significant influence on party strategy, public opinion, and voter behavior. But not for the first time. Far-right movements gained popularity in the late 20th century with the National Front in the 1970s, and the British National Party in the 1990s. These parties capitalized on anti-immigrant sentiments, fueling xenophobia and racial tensions while advocating for strict immigration controls. Their rhetoric not only polarized public opinion, but also prompted mainstream political parties to address immigration more prominently in their platforms. But there have been moments of hope when it comes to the chaotic jungle of British politics. For example, during the Yugoslav wars in the 1990s, political parties across the spectrum demonstrated solidarity in offering refuge to those fleeing persecution and violence. And a similar thing has been seen following the UK's openness to accepting and integrating Ukrainian refugees following Russia's invasion in 2022. Still, the polarization of immigration within British politics and society has been dangerously motivated in recent decades, with the Conservative Party adopting tougher and more questionable stances on immigration, emphasizing border control and reducing net migration numbers. In contrast, the Labour Party has championed a more inclusive approach, advocating for fair and compassionate immigration policies. However, they have also been criticized for their hypocritical U-turns under Sir Keir Starmer, such as a second Brexit referendum and confusion around whether or not Labour would introduce a wealth tax. Having to choose between two bickering parties, has influenced society beyond the voting booth, with individuals gravitating towards parties that align with their views on immigration as a solution or problem, on security and sovereignty or diversity and inclusivity. So perhaps it isn't immigration itself, but the way politics has weaponized and used it to further break apart a country that itself has long been broken. For deeper insight into the real reasons the UK is collapsing, check out our next video linked here.